Good evening. Welcome to the 35th anniversary My Bloody Valentine cast reunion panel. Let's go all the way back. What I'd like to do is chat about the movie for a bit, and then I'll open it up to audience Q&A because I'm sure everyone has tons of questions for all of you. Lots of interesting stuff to talk about. When was this shot? 1980. Are we in agreement? We weren't in agreement with Pickup's number.
Fall
but
of 1980.
There we go. And where was it shot?
Sydney Mines, Nova Scotia.
Very interesting. Perfect. And you had an interesting experience when you went to the mines of Sydney for the first time to film the movie, right? Tell us about that.
What happened was we were looking for locations, and we obviously knew that Cape Breton Island and Nova Scotia was the sort of the heartland of the coal mining industry in Canada. So we figured if we're going to find a mine, that's where we're going to find it. So we went over there, and as luck would have it, there's a mine called the Princess Colliery, which just closed 6 months before, and everything was still very operational, and they were thinking of turning it into a mining museum. There was already a mining museum about 30, 40 miles south of there called the Glace Bay Mining Museum, which has been around for a long time. But these guys figured, they can, do something with it, because otherwise it was just going to get cemented up. So we showed up, and we thought, wow, this is exactly perfect. It was like it was written in the script.
Written for you, exactly.
Fabulous. So we said, you know what? This is great. Our producer and our production manager made a deal with the town, which now had the rights to the place, and we said, fabulous, great. And we went back to Montreal, where we were based at the time, to do some more preparation and finalize casting and everything else. And I showed up 2 weeks later with my producer, and we look at the mine, and we don't recognize it.
Producer Bob Presner.
That's correct.
Who also did Pick Up Summer. Right.
We don't recognize it. And why don't we recognize it? Because it looks like it's straight out of a Walt Disney movie. It is perfectly clean. It's all been painted. It's sparkling. You could eat off the floor. And the good townspeople of North Sydney, Sydney Mines, Nova Scotia, decided that obviously, since there's going to be a big movie coming up, it's up, it behooves them to clean it up.
And you had to have them. That took up time. You had to have them go and dirty up the mine again.
Well, basically, what happened was we just went, oh my God! Of course, we couldn't say anything because we still needed the mine. So we started off with $50,000 over budget already, because that's how much it cost us to hire a bunch of scenic painters, fly them out of Montreal and Toronto, and within 2 weeks, repaint the mine to make it look like what it was. And
which is usually the way it works in the opposite sense. They're gonna clean up something for you, and now they're wrecking it for you.
Well, no, it was amazing, So, but they were so nice. We didn't have the heart to say, "What the fuck did you just do?" Yeah.
And maybe Harry Warden would have been kinder in a clean mine.
Yeah,
He was angry. He's just
Oh yeah, no, it was beautiful. It was just the most amazingly clean place I've ever been to.
How long was the shooting schedule?
We had a 30-day shooting schedule.
Which is super tight for as much stuff as you had to do.
Well, these days, obviously, because now you're shooting video and so on, and nobody gives a shit about what it looks like. People shoot horror films with a lot less time, but obviously we were shooting film, and obviously we were shooting in a real mine, which was about, 900 meters underground, so that would make it about 2,700 feet underground. and about a mile underneath the ocean. So it took a while to bring all that equipment down and so on.
Scary.
And that is
Very
interesting.
scary.
Yeah, because you're there's one thing to film on locations, another thing to film on location, under location.
Under
it's-
location,
That's a
you know.
serious location. Now, environmentally, how was the atmosphere there? Was it like hard to breathe? Was it hot? Was it whatever?
It was really hot. You know, I mean, one of the things you'll realize is the lower you go, the hotter it gets. And well, Rob will attest to that.
There's a shower down there, though, as we saw.
No, the shower was upstairs.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Oh, speaking
and that
of
was
the-
only cold water.
Speaking of the shower, that was my first
we go.
introduction to showering on film. And, it's, oh, wow, we're all like, oh, it's going to be a hot night on Saturday night. That water was about 35 degrees. And they were blowing smoke into the shower room to make it look like steam. But
Yeah, there was no hot water.
It was freaking cold. And, I mean, one take, two takes, what? We have to do this again? And then the pickup lines and the reverse and the close-ups and it was like, that was the hardest thing. I think that was my first introduction to holy shit. This is how you make a hot shower?
Maybe you set a record for most males in the shower scene at the same time or something.
Oh, I think so. Yeah.
Because, I mean, Tom, you have a funny line in that one.
I honestly don't know.
I think Rob says straight to the heart, and because what's the running joke with Tom's character in the film?
Oh, he says straight to the heart.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Well,
right.
the running joke with Tom is he's a virgin, but he's got the biggest dick.
All right, that was it.
But he doesn't
The
know how to
water
use
was really
doesn't know how to
cold.
use it.
The water was really cold.
Didn't
Yeah.
affect me.
I thought you were going to tell me something like you went into the shower scene and they said it was going to be shoulders up and you walked in nude. And we're like, I'm ready to go.
We did it nude.
Good, that's authentic.
That-
Yeah, the boys
George,
did it nude.
George wanted authenticity.
Yeah. And it was part of the whole thing was, I wanted these guys to do it like miners would. And obviously in a situation like that, it's the camaraderie. It's like being in the army. You're not going to wear underwear to take a shower.
Most of us.
So
It was a closed set.
it was a closed set.
Well, maybe this is an interesting segue into the death scene sort of stuff, because I wanted you to tell the story. It's inevitable that a panel is going to get to what was cut out of the film and the censorship and everything like that,
Everything.
which is basically affecting every single one of you guys up there, because you were almost all of you involved in a scene that had to be trimmed or cut in some sort of way at the height of all of this, and you may have never seen it uncut until recently. You would explain to me that Tom had a pretty spectacular death scene plan, because my question to George was, why did Tom not get the screen time that he got in pickup, and then he explained to me that he had something spectacular for him to go out on, and it was cut. So let's hear that.
Yeah. Well, that was a scene, the whole point with Tom was, right, that he's the shy virgin, and he's sort of attracted to the red-haired girl, Mabel, the waitress in the bar. And, well, they finally end up consummating the relationship.
In the mine.
In the mine. And, Tom's on top because they're sort of traditional folks.
It's a very small Canadian town. Everyone
Yeah,
does it that
they're
way.
traditional,
Yeah, we don't do the cowboy boots thing.
No. So anyhow, but it's really, really very, very innocent, It's they're smiling at each other. This is beautiful in a strange and weird way, because they're down 900 meters under the mine. But anyway, and the miner shows up, and obviously every time Tom does a thrust of his considerable member, she sort of acquiesces and enjoys it with big wide-eyed, enjoyment. And
I was acting.
so as he keeps gently thrusting along, the miner comes up behind and takes the ogre and slams it into his back,
Just
which
like that.
obviously makes Tom.
More wide-eyed.
Well, let's say it makes Tom, that next thrust is a little more forceful. To which Mabel, or Harriet, sorry.
Mabel would be a
Yeah,
whole different
exactly.
scenario.
To which
going on
Harriet, I'm sorry,
Mabel, that
to
cougar.
which Harriet obviously goes, ooh, and opens her eyes and looks up to see Tom bleeding out of his mouth with his eyes popping out, and the blood goes directly dripping into her mouth. And
That's hot.
and then, just as she screams in abject terror, the miner decides to couple them forever. To which she, of course, heaves her pelvis and now bleeds back, and they end up with their mouths together like in an eternal kiss, with blood dripping off on both sides. Yeah, it was. And so when the Motion Picture Association of America saw that, they said, we're not talking about cutting out frames here. If you don't cut out that whole scene, this movie will never get shown. So, it's one of those things, as you know, in the way the Motion Picture Association and the mores are, you can slash a woman's breast, but God forbid you kiss one, So
It is very backwards, that's
yeah.
for sure.
So obviously, mixing sex and violence and blood really just got their prudish.
So after hearing that, how many people are disappointed you didn't see that scene in My Bloody Valentine? Yeah, me too.
Yeah, me too.
Now I asked George, was it on the cutting room floor, and that at the time was 35 millimeter. It was literally cut out of the equation and probably
And it
thrown in the
disappeared.
garbage. Yeah, which is why it's so difficult, obviously, when we're restoring films, to even find that uncut footage, and if we do, to restore it to what it actually looks like to match the movie. So a lot of care gets into treating these movies and giving them what they deserve 35 years later, even that's the case. But that's a tough one to hear. But who else had a story of a death scene that they were in that maybe or may not have had something extra in it? I mean, we can do LN, because your death scene is in my opinion the most spectacular one. Yeah, it's wonderful. So how was that to do for explain that to us.
Well, I was this is my second movie, and I was I think in theater school, and I was taking it all very seriously, and I did everything I could to scare the poop out of myself, and I think people were laughing at me offset. Is that so, George? I don't know. I was taking it very seriously. I was like really trying to be scared. I was scared because I was, in the moment. So,
Method
and
actors.
it was what?
Method actors.
Yes, I was method acting. Oh my gosh, I was so panicked about the scene the night before. I'm not going to be scared enough. I got to be scared. Oh, you know how I got the movie? I got the movie by George. Apparently, is this so, George? You cast an actor and then you find out at the last minute they actually can't scream. So George, who knew my acting, obviously, you asked me to scream. That was my audition. I screamed pretty
And
loud.
you did it. That's excellent.
I
Yeah.
did some good screaming.
I knew you were a good actress. I just
Didn't know if I could scream.
We didn't do screams in the previous
Didn't do
movies,
screams, so I was ready for it.
Yeah.
I was a screamer.
we did giggles.
Perfect. That's very hot. That's great.
And then it was really fun. Peter was so sweet, he was very careful, as a good Canadian would be. It's like, oh, am I hurting you? As he's like lifting me up. but my
Maybe that's
head.
why he kept doing, because the mining suits keep falling. So you're
Yeah.
just consistently screaming in escalation.
Oh, yeah.
Or whatever.
How long
So
did we shoot that
You
scene
really,
for?
really did use her to the advantage you had gotten.
Yeah,
There was a
yeah.
couple
it
of-
was super
yeah.
scary.
Yeah.
I
It was a
super
couple of
scared.
hours of suits falling.
Yeah, it was fun.
And then
Can I-
at the
can I-
end of it, you're getting picked up and you're getting your head pushed through a pipe. Now,
Yes.
then they replace you with the makeup. And then the makeup, by the way, to credit this, is done by fans. Tom Berman is the guy who
Tom
did
Berman.
it. Tom Berman.
Oh, I
yeah,
have a
yeah.
Tom Berman story. Can I tell it quickly?
Yes.
So
absolutely.
I flew to Los Angeles, which was whoa. I flew to Los Angeles from Montreal. I'd never Los Angeles was the place actors go, right? And I went and you had to do a full body cast. They had to do a full body cast of me. And they were so nice because I was a little claustrophobic. So they kept talking to me. And apparently, the person that had their cast done previous to me, the last person they'd worked on, was David Bowie for The Man Who Fell to Earth.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
That's pretty fantastic.
It was serious. That's when I knew I was famous. 'Cause
So when you were doing the scene with Peter holding you by your head,
Yep.
was he actually holding you by the head, or
No.
was
How did we do that?
How do you think that was done?
Because you moved, you moved around
It's
the
so
room, right?
easy.
How did we do it? I
How
can't
do you
remember.
think it was done?
Any ideas?
That scene is foreshadowed by him picking her up in the hall and kissing her. So you might think that it's him, right? So to take the weight off of her face and not hurt her, her foot was actually in a stirrup.
Ah.
So that scene
didn't
was
even remember that.
choreographed by George, myself, and Hele, almost like a ballet, to go through all those without
Very
hitting
cool.
anything.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had to hold the Steadicam for a little bit too, and use the Steadicam by myself to get to the shower from her POV.
Yeah.
Steadicam. The first time the Steadicam was ever introduced was in My Bloody Valentine.
That's not true.
In Canada, it was.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. I stand corrected.
Oh yeah, no.
Yeah, you better.
I thought he was being sarcastic, and I'm like, I don't think that's accurate. But maybe that's the case because it was
Wow.
in Canada. And I'm told, Alf, you went through a crazy death that probably got cut quite a bit. Describe what happened to you and what we may not have seen.
Testing,
There you go.
testing.
That's better.
You got it.
Is this okay?
There you go.
I hope I'm going in the right direction. I hope I'm going in the right direction. I also had to have a plaster cast done, and I went down to California.
Was it David Bowie?
With David Bowie? No, no.
They didn't tell him that.
George had called me up and said he wanted me to meet him at the airport before I flew down because he wanted to. He wanted me to. How do you say it?
The expression on your face.
Exactly. My character was going to be hung, as you may recall, and so here we are in the restaurant, and I'm standing here like George is saying, okay, try it like this, and I'm kind of going, okay, I am.
In the restaurant.
Yeah, of course.
So then, we find that what he. I'm sorry. It's okay. I can do this by myself. So anyway, when it's time to make the mold, there were two men who were taking these things that like going around your leg and plastering it all the way up, and I had to be very, very still, and I also had a hairy chest. And I had to just as I was standing there, I everything was okay until I started to notice that the plaster was getting harder and harder. And at one time they were right behind me just putting the stuff on, and I started to kind of go. I was going to go down, and they caught me and brought me back up, and so that was it was a scary part, but it was also very, very comical.
In the limited edition or the special edition, you get to see a little bit of it. Basically, what it was Sarah, and who's left there? I think it's Sarah,
And Patty.
Patty, TJ, and Axel are left climbing up the ladder, and then this body drops right in front of Patty and Sarah, and it's him. And what happens is, you know, from the weight of that, because it came from such height, it stretches the neck, and then finally the body separates, and the head just keeps swinging, staring at them.
I'm scared.
And the body drops to the ground. So
And that wasn't even a Harry Warden related death. That was just.
no, it was Harry Warden. Yeah, Harry Warden did that to them.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, he fell. Perfect. Speaking of Axel and TJ, unfortunately, neither of those gentlemen could be here today, which is sad. But what we do have is our lovely leading lady, Lori Hallier, and I got to say, one of my favorite. First of all, I love the dynamic between the little triangle of love that was written between these characters, and the movie it's so great because I think all of the relationships in the movie seem super genuine. Like, you guys actually seem like you're a couple in love. It comes across as really real. And Axel and TJ and Sarah all seem like this legitimate small town drama of the guy who loves a girl and the guy goes away and someone else, and it's something that's true and kind of believable and cool. Now, one of my favorite lines ever is from Axel after they're fighting, and he says, "Jesse, you what a shape." And then he opens the beer as he turns around and leaves the room, and he does it in one motion where he opens and turns and then leaves. "Jesse, you what a shape." It's just excellent. How was that with those guys working in that capacity? Just if we could say a little bit about them, because we love them so.
Oh, no kidding. It was so sad that they couldn't be here. Well, it's, work is always a good reason not to come, so.
Neil had to cancel last minute. It was a Viagra commercial. Last minute, we didn't have a chance to announce it. That's the only reason Axel's not here, but he's in our hearts, literally.
Yeah. Well, I felt really, really lucky for a first-time role. Very, very rich role. I mean, I got to be sort of a dynamic action figure, but I also got to have my romance and my unlikable qualities. I was watching it today and I was going, God, I was a bit of a little bitch at times, wasn't I?
It was a very small town. They had very real.
Exactly. I had to leave home and leave somebody behind and whatever, so I sort of related to what she went through, and with TJ leaving. So, again, another method actor, you know how to find them, don't you? We all, for some reason, this is totally to the credit of George. If you cast your film right, you've got half the job is there. And he did such a good job of casting that the relationships came so naturally. And everybody was lucky in that they were able to meet a week in advance, and for various reasons I didn't have the same luxury of that. But boy, did they ever sort of welcome me into the fold right away. And what I've always said about love relationships is no matter who you're working with, you legitimately have to find something to fall in love with in your partner, in your actor. They could be the most despicable human being on earth, and believe me, I've had a few like that to play opposite, but you have to legitimately find something to fall in love with, and I was able to do that with both of them, and because of their generosity as actors, and so it's just being part of a triangle. Of course, it's just an interesting dynamic, and especially because she obviously doesn't quite know what she wants either, and it was great. All the relationships were just built in. Cynthia and I, became fast friends immediately. Ellen and I didn't have any scenes together, but same thing. It was just so easy to bond. So it didn't really require a lot of acting when it came to the relationships. The acting was about dealing with the circumstances, or whatever the mine required, and the shooting, but all of those challenges I found incredibly invigorating,
It's a good point, because there's many movies that followed My Bloody Valentine that were, just borrowing from that formula that had been created, but so many of them had characters that you couldn't get into, that weren't very interesting, you didn't care about them, and they weren't very entertaining, so it just became about looking at your watch until the next death scene. But My Bloody Valentine is so far from that. It's a wonderful movie. Even without Harry Warden, it would be an enjoyable thing, and now you got Harry Warden in it, and it makes it twice as great.
Yeah, we were saying, because we were all new at acting, but all dedicated actors, because a lot of us have gone on to have careers, made our living at it. So we were all very dedicated. Some of us were in theater school, and that was the thing, is we didn't think of it, this is a horror movie.
Not at
I was
all.
thinking to Robbie, we were just thinking about, this is a great movie, I've got a great part, how am I gonna, make it as real as possible? And we were so excited about it. We had no judgment on it. It was just a good story for us.
The blood and the gore was like secondary to our intentions with telling the story and showing the relationships and the friendships of the characters. The fact that they die and the way that they die adds layers to the ones that survive, but I never really thought of it as a horror film, because it's not our job to scare you, it's our job to tell the story, and it's his job to scare us.
Yeah, it's Peter's job to scare you.
You did all that.
And I think that helped make the whole thing work.
And also, I don't know why, but for some reason, it felt like a linear experience. It felt that we sort of lived the story through from the beginning to the end, even though I'm sure there was a lot of stuff that we did shoot, out of sequence. But it felt linear. And also, George was so respectful to all of us, even though, we were all mostly for, first time and in theater school and whatever. You give us a lot of respect as actors right from the very beginning, which was very empowering.
If you trusted Tom Kovacs on a motorcycle, he can trust anybody.
We were also all from Montreal or Toronto. We were on location. We were creating this new little family that was just sort of standing. I remember going out with to a pool hall with Keith the day before, or a day or two before we actually did the scene where they're all playing pool and the thing, and Keith coming out with the one-liners there, and Keith was such a special guy to work with, because he was always adding so much to it, and these people are not hard to love.
I'm glad you brought up Keith Knight, because he is very loved by fans, and we just like to imagine that if he had this opportunity, he would be here in a second.
Oh yeah.
He seemed like a legitimately, genuinely decent guy, and when I watch the movie, I look at him and I say, I wish I was friends with this guy, because he just came across that way. He knocked down a lot of barriers as an actor in that film. He was the most respected guy. He was well respected by his friends and sort of everything. But we couldn't do this without sharing a couple of stories about Keith, because he was such a great guy.
And we also had the gift of an incredibly seasoned actor that I think helped us each and every day gather ourselves and collect our thoughts, and that was Don Franks.
I reached out to Don for this show, and I didn't realize at the time that it was earlier in the year, and then a couple of months later I found out that he had passed away. So I was told he was a wonderful guy, super interesting, and I'm sure Don would be here. I'd love to meet all of you as well. Give us something about Chief Newby and Hollis. Any favorite memories, anything from those guys you can tell us?
Well, I can start.
I just want to say about Keith Knight. I remember Keith Knight. Keith Knight was an extremely funny man, and he was part of an improv group in Toronto called Second City. And
I know that. I'm clapping.
And he was. I used to go and watch him. And if you know anything about Second City, this is like they throw words and ideas and thoughts out at these actors. and they have no time to come up with the most entertaining scenes. And Keith was very, very proud of his being a member of the Second City Troupe in Toronto, and he was an amazingly funny guy. And if you remember him from Meatballs, right? I mean, he was just an amazing actor and an amazing talent. And I know that, well, you lived with him, didn't you? Yeah, you lived with him.
I lived with him.
Yeah, he was funny at home too.
He was amazing, and a true loss to this industry when he passed away.
Accomplished juggler, magician.
He juggled in the film, and that was legit.
Yeah, he could do anything.
Sleight of hand, he would entertain us with card tricks all day
Yeah.
long.
My favorite line from Keith is when he's cooking the eggs on the radio, on the engine of the car in the junkyard, which is totally something that you would do in a small town. That's your Saturday night most of the time. And he's little protein patrol, eh, boys? He's little.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how about Don? I mean, I didn't realize Don Franks had a long ponytail. That shocked me that he was in a wig that whole time.
Neither did I. Like,
Yeah.
I'm sure neither did we. We met him as the character for the longest time. That's just who I thought he was. It was kind of like mind-blowing to find out that he was like living half as a native and had this long ponytail down to here and this amazingly beautiful tattoo all over his back. So totally not the character of Chief Newby.
No, I knew Don by reputation only, and when we, one of the things I was kind of proud of was that we did this as a fully Canadian film, and Don, had quite an excellent reputation in American movies, and but. So he gave us he gave us a little bit of what's called name recognition at the same time, or face recognition, and yet he was Canadian. I've never worked with Don, but I loved his work. So when the time came to see Chief Newby, I just threw out, hey, what about Don Franks? And John Dunning, the producer, said, yeah, that's a good idea. Let's find out if he's available. So Don was available, and I was a very young director. It was a second movie, and I worked mostly with friends and people close to my age, and I'm going to be working with this guy, who's a bit of an icon. And I've always seen him in these roles, the Chief Newby kind of roles. He was always very serious. He was either a cop or he was somebody important, and so on. So, I thought, it would be kind of nice that if I made the gesture of welcoming him at the airport.
Yeah.
So.
Like I did with all of you.
Yeah,
Yes,
exactly.
you did. Thank you, Brian.
But you see, in those days, the airport in Sydney, Nova Scotia was still one of those airports where you actually walked down the stairs from the airplane and you met people on the tarmac. So. And it's pissing rain, and it's kind of cold, because up there it gets kind of cold by mid-September. So, and I'm waiting there, and the door opens, and this guy walks out, and he's got hair down to here. He's wearing a pea coat, jeans, and he's barefoot. And he walks down the thing and he says, oh, you must be George. And I said, yeah, Don. Okay. And he looked at me and he says, don't worry about it. I got the best wig ever. Wig.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing those stories. I've always been interested in those couple of characters and thinking, and we can chat to you guys in person now, which is wonderful. So I'd like to turn this over to everybody who came out here from My Bloody Valentine and ask any questions that you have.
Why there's no sequel?
Why was there no sequel to My Bloody Valentine? Since the ending is ambiguous, to say the least.
It's an interesting question. I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that because of the scandal of the censorship, Paramount wasn't going to open that box of worms again. They sort of, escaped unscathed. The film made enough money for them, not to lose money. But I think, Hollywood is very risk averse.
Especially these days, that's for sure.
Well, believe me, they were risk averse then too. And they weren't just going to relive that, And obviously, the writer passed away, so that didn't help matters. The producers, John and Andre, moved on to doing other things, such as founding Lionsgate. I moved on to doing, different films. So somehow or other, the stars never aligned.
Never got back to revisiting it again.
Yeah, we are now considering doing it. Now there's interest again.
I was about to make a comment of if all of these cast members want to come back for a My Bloody Valentine 2, who would want to see that? This is a real thing.
Yeah,
That guy didn't applaud. What the heck?
Yeah, we're looking at a couple of different scenarios that would obviously include new people, but would also include all the survivors.
Well, as long as it's in 3D, we'll all be happy.
I promise you will not be in 3D.
4D, man. 4D.
With all of the genuine, amazing camaraderie you guys had on set, did anything happen, like offset?
We're asking if people hooked up for
We all
real.
slept in our own beds.
You want the naughty bits?
Like, did anybody leave set and was like, man, I met my true
Tom,
love
keep
set
quiet about us.
No,
That's why
but
you
I don't think anybody hooked up. But I could be wrong, because I was the youngest of the group and people didn't tell me everything.
He and I hooked up.
There you go. No, but genuine friendships were formed, and genuine love for each other was formed, which we talk about, but that's true. We're all family, and it's kind of like high school. So this is our second high school reunion because it feels like that. Like we don't see each other that often, but we don't really need to. And it was magical. I don't really know why, except that we were young enough and we were grateful enough and we were in it together, which was really very present in the Canadian film industry at its inception, right, George?
Mm-hmm.
We were all, it was a young industry. We were lucky enough to be a part of it. We had a great leader who was encouraging as much truth as possible. So really George set the tone and made it possible for us to get there in time. Like often now you go to a movie set and you got to deal with the man that you're going to be stripped naked with or whatever. I don't know. Anyway, I'm just saying. But you just show up on set. Sometimes you don't even have a read through, and so those things that George and the production did, or George thought was important to build some truth, that sort of was lasting. So although we didn't have love affairs, Laurie, I don't know, maybe Laurie's got some.
Sarah had two guys after her. She had to pick one of them.
Did you have to choose, Laurie? Did you?
I gotta say, but all of us, really, all of the guys, we kind of felt at some point protected, but we all fell in love with Laurie, and Cynthia, and all of them.
Well, I've had a crush on these two for 35 years.
Now, one of the things was, don't forget, they were young. The working conditions were very difficult. They basically had just enough time to go home, study their lines, eat, get some sleep, and go back and do it again.
Speaking to the longevity of My Bloody Valentine and how people love it today, how do you feel about how it's lasted as a frame, or as a film?
My first indication that something was up with this movie I joined Facebook in 2008. 3 months later, I got a Facebook message from somebody in Australia. And I'm looking for Tom Kovacs from My Bloody Valentine. Are you him?
It wasn't Grant or Steven, right?
No. And I messaged back, said, you found him. And then he sent back like a 3-page message of like, oh my God, it's an amazing movie, da, da, da. And I just went, oh wow. So that was my first indication. And then since then, I think all of us have slowly realized that this has really made an impact on people. Yeah.
I have to say that when I saw the movie in the theater, I was blown away. And when I was sitting there watching the movie, I was scared. I'm like, oh! Jumping up at stuff. I think it was just an artful movie. I think it was a compelling movie. I mean, who could predict this? Nobody could predict this. But it was a good movie, and I've seen horror movies since, and obviously they're great horror movies. Of course there are, but
Nothing's as good as My Bloody Valentine.
definitely not. Right?
I think that says it all.
I think we were just all really, as Hélène alluded to earlier, we're all really blessed to have this film be, in a sense, for a lot of us, the launching pad to a career in this industry as either actors or writers or producers or, some way, shape, or form. We're all still connected with the performing arts, and to have My Bloody Valentine as our first real experience, I don't think we ever saw that this film would have the following that it has. But even if it didn't, the experience for us was such a concrete place to start our lives in this business that I think that's what I'm most grateful for, is to have been blessed with the opportunity to be a part of such a wonderful team of people, and to be led by a director whose vision is storytelling and character driven, and because that's what makes movies last and last and last, is that the audience identifies with the characters in the stories, and as long as stories are character driven, they will stand the test of time. And I think that we're all blessed to have been a part of a project that was, in its inception, a character driven tale. For me, I think.
That's very well put. And Peter, how does it feel to know that 35 years later, people dress as you for Halloween? And conventions, and at home probably.
Well, that last one in New Jersey, a little guy came up, he was about this high, and he was in the complete miner costume with a light and a pick, and it was like, well, come on up here, Mini-Me.
It took me a while to realize, because I thought we were just having a party, and and George Mihalka started directing everybody.
That was a very witty line. Taking it from Tommy Wiseau.
Once a year.
Every now and then I come up with something. No, but it was really not that far off of the truth, because I had done a film that was supposed to be character driven, where all the characters got just no care at all, and then I was thinking, okay, well, I'm an actor now, and I'll just wait for the next one to come in, and then they didn't. So I really was coming right from a working class, because I was in a tobacco field, and I came out of the tobacco field, and they said, and the farmer's wife, Jeanette, who I'd worked for before, I just said, can I come back and work? There's nothing happening here. And I'd auditioned for you. I don't remember a thing about I remember everything about the movie. I don't remember a thing about the audition, but I must have done well enough. Because you did hire me, right? Yeah. So, it wasn't a mistake.
You were never hired.
Oh, I just showed up.
You just showed up.
So,
You're having residuals.
So I came out of this tobacco field, and Jeanette comes up to me and she goes, you're going to be a star again. You know, they want you down to Montreal to fly to Nova Scotia tomorrow. And I showed up. I had a big beard, and my hands were still covered in tobacco tar and all calloused from working there. And the next thing I knew, we were at a read-through. And then George was generous enough to arrange to take even me, who didn't have a scene in the mind, down under the sea to the face of a working mine, where all these guys were there going like, "What you doing there, by? You know, anyone ever tell you it's heaven because it's hell?" You know, and then just from then on, I thought it was great when it came out. I looked at it and I said, "Hey, that was good." All my family and friends were there, and then I thought everybody had forgotten about it until I got an email the same way.
Well, every time I get together with them, last time was 5 years ago at another Monster Mania, I think it was. We just have such a great time together. And so I want to thank you for this opportunity for us to get together again. Brian, and putting this together. Thank you.
Say yeah. Thank you very much. I truly appreciate that. I hope you all enjoy it. All of these guys are invited and hope to be there. Ladies and gentlemen, the cast of My Bloody Valentine 35th anniversary.
Thanks so much, guys. See you soon.